by the time I get paid, my attorney gets paid, say I have to get an auctioneer to get this stuff paid, I mean, there might be $2,000 left. You know what? I'm just going to abandon the asset and I'm not going to liquidate it at all because it's going to just look like I'm trying to get paid and my attorneys are trying to get paid and my auctioneer's trying to get paid, and that's just not a good look.
Hello, folks. Sven Nelson, C2C Resources, also known as the guy to get you paid. I'm here with my guest, Rodd Newhouse. Rodd, if you wouldn't mind, just introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do as a career.
My name is Rodd Newhouse. Welcome everyone for being here. Rodd Newhouse. I'm a Chapter 7 bankruptcy trustee in the Northern District of Texas, and I've been doing this about 6 years.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome. So, being a bankruptcy trustee, you see some interesting stories and interesting cases, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And it's never a dull moment. It's never the same.
No, as a bankruptcy trustee, you have to learn a lot about a lot of different businesses, right? I mean, you have to know and understand how these businesses work and operate in order to go in there and essentially run them for a little while when you take over a business through a bankruptcy. Is that correct?
Well, from the Chapter 7 standpoint, it's a little bit different. So the Chapter 7 is full liquidation.
Okay.
So what happens is we do get to learn about a lot of different businesses. Sometimes it's kind of retroactively though. So we actually go in and, there may be a llama farm that has gone under and the people just walked away from the llamas. So you're like, oh crap.
Oh,
All
wow.
right. And so I have to go in and learn what llamas do, what they need and find people.
Right.
Uh, you may have some punch that runs away from a pharmacy. And it's like, whoa, there's drugs in here. What do we do with the drugs? Who do we talk to? What is the local entities?
Uh-huh.
Movie theaters. Movie theaters, they have alcohol. What do you do with the alcohol? Licensing for movies. Like there's just so many different elements that you're just not versed in, and all of a sudden you have to become an expert almost overnight.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I like that about the collections business too, is I like to learn about a lot of different industries and a lot of different businesses and a lot of different business models. That's what's always intrigued me about this business. Because in order to understand how to collect the debt, you have to understand the business in general. So let me ask you, why do you do what you do? What made you choose to become a bankruptcy trustee?
So I'm gonna go back and tell you a nice story about this. I think you'll appreciate it. My father was a Chapter 7 bankruptcy trustee back in the late 80s, early 90s. And when he got into the business, I was just a young kid, and I thought it was the most boring business in the world. I didn't understand what he was doing. It was like, makes no sense. And I just had no interest in what he was doing. But then I wound up getting into the real estate field, and then he would start to go see different businesses, and that kind of, I think, started to make me a little more curious and interested.
Uh-huh.
And then as I got much older, I used to go and sit and help him when he did his 341 cases, and just to listen to the stories and how people went about their business, it was kind of like, wow, this is kind of intriguing. And I would say the catalyst for me was when I actually got to sit at the table with him as an assistant helping him. And the one of the original owners and founders of Dave and Buster's, the Dave Corvo, had filed personal Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was intriguing because it was like, how does a multimillionaire file bankruptcy? And I never understood that whole concept. And so I started to really get engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened is, unfortunately, my father wound up passing away back in 2014. And I went to the U.S. trustee. Actually, before he passed away, I interviewed for Hawaii, to be honest with you. And I was living in Arizona, and my family was kind of moving back to Texas, and my wife was not going to let me go to Hawaii when she's from Texas, so that just wasn't going to work. But but fast forward, I was my father passed away in 2014, and I asked to take his spot, and they told me no. And I was like, well, all right, I kind of like this. I think I understand it. I know how to do it. I think I'd be good at it. So then, unfortunately, 2 years later from that, his mentor passed away, and I asked if I could take that spot, and was told no. And I was like, "Ah, okay, well, at some point you got to hire someone. Well, finally, after 5 years, they finally hired some people, and I actually emailed my resume, mailed my resume and hand delivered my resume to the U.S. trustee office at that time. And the person who was running the show looked at me and said, I've been waiting for this, because they knew I really wanted it. And I got the opportunity to interview and follow in his footsteps. So it's been an honor to do that. So that's how I became a Chapter 7 bankruptcy trustee.
That's an amazing story, man. So that kind of leads into my next question, which I think I know the answer to this, but it's a question that I always ask. So everybody has mentors in their life, and obviously your father was your mentor in the
Yes.
bankruptcy trustee business. Did you have any other mentors that you followed, or tell me how that really worked for you as
In the bankruptcy business, it's such a very small, tight knit that the people that he hung around, I have now found some of them who are still on the U.S. trustee panel. They're my mentors now, and I can lean on them, and I know how they operate. Some of the same attorneys that he used back in the day, I still use a couple of those, but I've had to build my own Rolodex of people and find my own lane, and it's been good.
Okay. Yeah. So, how often do you have like receivables that you have to liquidate throughout that process?
It's a very random process in terms of what you're going to get. So in the Northern District of Texas, in the I guess Dallas Fort Worth area, there's six panel trustees on the Fort Worth side, and there's six panel trustees on the Dallas side.
Hmm.
I'm one of the panel trustees on the Fort Worth side. And because we're on basically a rotation or conveyor belt, whatever comes in is what we get, and it just kind of gets passed around.
Hmm.
So there may be some times where I have hearings for the month, and I may do 20 cases in those hearings, and there's no assets in any of those cases. And
Oh
it's
wow.
like, oh, well, nothing there. Okay, we move on. And then I'll do another slate, maybe another 15 in, and there's nothing in that slate. But then I have one other district that I also do, which is the San Angelo district. And I may have seven cases there, and I'll get two asset cases out of that. And that's actually kind of what's happened is some of my bigger cases have come from the San Angelo district.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
And so you can get, you know, one of my cases as a trustee was a business that was a former engineering firm, large engineering firm, and they had $500 million in revenues
Hmm.
at one point. And unfortunately, the owner passed away, and it just kind of snowballed downhill from there. And eventually, the business had to close. So now I'm dealing with old 401ks that have to be shut down, and making sure those people get their money, and wage claims and how that happens. And I don't know anything about an engineering,
Right.
firm whatsoever. But I mean, I had to go out to San Angelo and look at the facility, and we had to sell trucks and buildings and just all kinds of stuff. So that's what makes it fun.
Wow. Yeah. No doubt. So, how often do creditors reach out to you? Let's say a vendor that's owed money by this particular customer. How often do they send you a reclamation letter?
So it kind of actually goes in reverse. So what happens is the person who files bankruptcy has to list everyone on their petition who
Right.
they want to receive relief from.
Right.
So in order to receive that relief, they need to make sure they put all of their vendors or creditors on that list.
Hmm.
And then what happens is notice gets sent out to those vendors or creditors.
Right.
And so then those vendors or creditors are the ones that have to now pay attention to see if they want to either reaffirm their debt with that particular person,
Hmm.
or if they are in a position where they have an unsecured, excuse me, if they have a secured interest, they can reaffirm that debt. If they're an unsecured interest, they can listen, or they just have to sit and wait. Because if they're unsecured and there's no money there,
Hmm.
there's just nothing there to give anyone.
But let's say I'm a vendor and I sell widgets to this guy
Yep.
that files for bankruptcy, right?
Right.
And I know that they still have my widgets and they haven't sold them. Can't they file a letter of reclamation with you, the bankruptcy trustee, to get those widgets back? and not have that included in the bankruptcy somehow? How does that work? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, so to an extent, what happens is if they have still some of your widgets, we now have to understand and see what the value of those widgets are.
Mm-hmm.
And if those widgets are of some value, um, and you have a secured interest in them, that's when you can talk about getting your property back. If there's an unsecured interest in those, say you, well, yeah, I guess you'd really want to be talking about a secured interest. If you have a secured interest in those and there is no, like, I don't see any value in them, but
Mm-hmm.
you see value in them, then you can actually petition to the court to have a hearing to get a relief from stay and you can get your property back.
Mm-hmm.
But if I see that there's value in those widgets, then you have to hold on potentially. I can say I don't want to, I can challenge your relief from stay. And if your widgets were sold at $100 a widget, uh, say your cost was $100 a widget, and they can sell on the open market for $200 a widget retail, but I can get them for 150 a widget, then I'm actually going to go sell them for 150, and there's not really a whole lot you can do about it
Really?
from that standpoint.
Because I'm unsecured.
If you're unsecured, there's nothing you can do about it. If you're secured, then you can come and get your interest back
Got you.
if you're secured. But if you're unsecured, there's not a whole lot you can do about it other than kind of get in line and hope there's something there. And if there's nothing there for me to sell, it again, there may be that, for example, there may be, we'll call it, I don't know, for simple math, say that there's a $10,000 worth of equity, right? In all of these widgets. And if the $10,000 is you're the only creditor in there, but your claim is like $100,000, well, by the time I get paid, my attorney gets paid, let's say I have to get an auctioneer to get this stuff paid. I mean, there might be $2,000 left.
Right.
And I'll go, you know what? I'm just going to abandon the asset and I'm not going to liquidate it at all because it's going to just look like I'm trying to get paid and my attorneys are trying to get paid and my auctioneer's trying to get paid. And that's just not a good look. So it's
Right.
almost worth it for me to what's called abandon the asset. And it goes back to the estate, it goes back to whomever. And, if someone wants to find it one day, so be it.
Right. 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 So, what's one of your favorite client stories, and working in this field?
Well, I wouldn't say client stories because I don't have clients, but
Yeah, not
from
clients. One of your
what I mean,
favorite stories, bankruptcy.
I mean, it's twofold. I could go on both ends of this. One of my favorite stories is actually somewhat comical because I was really helping a young lady who had filed bankruptcy. She called me in a panic and she said, um, I called in on the line. This is when we were doing on telephones. This is like right after COVID, and we weren't doing these things on Zoom or in person. So I'd never seen her. And she called me. She said, I'm sitting in the waiting room. I'm sitting in on the phone call, and there's no one here. And I could tell she was frazzled. And I said, well, ma'am, are you sitting down? She said, okay, I'm sitting down. I said, I got something for you. You're 24 hours too early. And she started kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, all right, thank you. So the next day she comes on and we kind of make a little funny, like, ha ha, you ready? You good? All right. I held her case, no asset case, nothing there. And she represented herself. So fast forward, I don't know, maybe a week or two later, I can't remember the time frame, but it was a little bit later. I get a phone call from her asking what's the status of her case and what's going to happen. And I told her the process. We got through it a couple minutes, and she said, "Okay, thank you. Oh, by the way, I have one more question for you." And I said, "Sure, what's that?" And her question was, "Are you married?"
Oh my god.
And I just went, I mean, just was not expecting that at all. And I said, yes, yes, I am. And that's all I could think to say in the moment was just, yes, yes, I am. And she went, okay, well, I apologize. I thank you very much. And that was it. So that was a funny story on one end, aspect of it. The other end, in terms of some of the fun cases, I would say, again, um, is going back to probably that, I would say probably when I did the Alamo Draft House case.
Okay.
Um, that was a very, very fast paced case because it was filed in June, around like June 7th,
Uh-huh.
and we were closed and out of that case by the end of the month.
Wow.
It was the fastest case that even attorneys who'd been in this business 30 years had never seen anything like this.
So what caused that case to move so quickly?
Because come to find out where one of the particular properties was, it was in a shopping center, and that shopping center, I didn't know this at the time until maybe almost a week and a half into the case. The shopping center was trying to also be sold. And because the movie theater was the anchor tenant, it was messing up the entire, I don't know, 20, $30 million transaction that was going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
they needed to basically, we needed to sell the movie theaters to someone to make sure that there was going to be a tenant
A tenant in the
in the
shop
lo-
sale.
in
Yeah.
the shopping center for it to happen. And I'm telling you, it was, I'm trying to pick up money from one of the debtors, and then there's a judge who wants to have a hearing, and he's like, "Why are you not in my case?" And like, "Why are you not here right now?" And I'm like, "Because I'm doing my job." And I mean, it was just, it was so much going on. But I really have to say that was one that a lot of us grew up on, and that was the first time that even some people who've been doing this over 30 years saw two judges rule from the same bench at the same time
Wow.
because the cases were like, there were like seven entities or something, and I had five of them, and two other trustees had the other two. And so you had to kind of do everything at the same time while one judge listened to what the other judge said. And it was, I mean, it really got me going. And that was fun though. It was a lot, and it really grew me up fast.
A lot of moving
Trustee.
pieces there.
Oh, lots of, I had to fly to out of state to another place because one of the places was out of state. And the eeriest thing about doing that was I had to go into these movie theaters, and there were safes in the movie theaters. And you talk about going into a big empty movie theater by yourself and no one's in there because I don't want anybody to know that I'm there for
Hmm.
obvious reasons because I'm going to get money out of a safe.
Right.
So I actually went to the one out of state, and I didn't even tell the debtor's attorney. I only told my attorney that I was going because I did not want anyone to know where I was, when I was going, and when I was going to be
Yeah. Yeah.
there. And so you have to take money out of a safe, and you have to go put it in straight to a bank because you don't want to be walking around with that type of cash. You don't want to take that type of cash through a metal detector at an airport either to draw any scrutiny
Yeah. Yeah. You're like,
as to
hey,
what.
what's this all about?
And then you're like, oh, but, and you're on a time because I went up for a day, like flew up for the day, came right back, and I didn't want to be delayed. So, there's just different little tactics you have to learn in this business and how to really have a lot of good discernment on
Hmm.
how to get through problem solving. This is really a problem solving business and a very calm business. If you are frantic and don't do well under pressure, this is not the business for you.
Yeah. No, I don't imagine so. I imagine you're under pressure quite a bit, actually.
Indeed, and you have to make decisions, and you really have to learn how to delegate. Having good counsel in this business helps because as a trustee, it's very hard to stay focused on one case at a time because you have 40 other cases a month that you have to still process and run through,
Hmm.
and then stop that and go back to the case and go like, wait, what are we doing again? So making sure that you really have good counsel to find assets that are valuable is really the key to this business.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting, man. That's I can't imagine there's not a dull day in your business. There's
Y- It's well, and it's funny that you say not dull day. Like some days are very dull, meaning the 341 meetings are very rudimentary. There's no assets there. These people are truly broke, or they do have, I shouldn't say broke, but they're truly in a sense where they don't have the means to pay for their bills. They have medical bills, or they had some emergency, or some of the most heartfelt ones, though, are truly when, I mean, this has recently happened where a debtor, we had a co-debtor pass away 5 days before their hearing. So the husband and wife were filing,
Hmm.
and 5 days previously, the husband's wife passed away, and he still showed up to hold his 341 hearing. It's like, oh wow, like what do you say?
Yeah.
Um, and we had another gentleman who uh, he passed away after he filed with his wife, and then all of a sudden she's showing back up with, hey, I have money that I need to give to the estate, and it's like, you feel bad, but it's the law. It's what has to happen.
Yeah.
And so you have to be compassionate, but still stern enough to do your job
No doubt.
and not be too heartfelt or let too many emotions show. I mean, you can be sincere and compassionate, understanding, but there's still a job to do, and that's really hard to balance sometimes.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I've experienced the same thing being in the collections business. I mean, you hear the sob stories or the heartfelt stories from a debtor that's going through some personal thing and you feel bad, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's like, our client still deserves to be paid. It's not, not their misfortune. And it is what it is. So
It,
you certainly hear the sad stories. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, and then for the worst, well, the other side I do not like about this business, and this is just me as a person, I don't like some of the people. I don't like the people who really do try to cheat the system, and there are some people who have really done their clients wrong and walked away from things that I'm just not a fan of. You know, people who are maybe in the car business and then they just couldn't get it done and they walk away and they have like 50 cars at a car lot that are unfinished, and people have to go get their still wrecked car or
Oh,
non-fixed
wow.
car, and then
Yeah.
to go pick it up, and they just walk away.
And they've paid money or whatever, and they've been out their car for so long, and yeah, it's just
Correct.
inconvenience to everybody.
And they walk away. Or someone, we had one where a gentleman, he he I'll just say, I would say that he didn't, allegedly, couldn't prove it, but there were some times where you could tell he didn't do his vendors correctly and essentially misappropriated funds, but there's nothing I could do about it because I can't prove it, and I'm not going to spend resources and dollars that I don't have in order to chase down ghosts. And that's what makes it tough, that
Hmm.
I don't have resources in these cases sometimes to
Right.
really go after what I know may be a situation that I want to investigate. But if I don't have the resources and there's no creditor standing up and saying, well, I'll pay for it, which
Hmm.
wouldn't make sense because they're already out of money.
Hmm.
But unless a creditor steps up and says, I'll foot the bill for you, there's not a whole lot I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. So, in your experience in dealing with all these businesses, what do you think the biggest mistake that you see businesses making with regards to finance and cash flow that gets them in this situation?
Sometimes it's the luck of the draw in a business cycle. And what I mean by that is this: what we saw coming out of, what we're starting to see a lot of recently is this: COVID had two businesses spur from COVID: the house flipping business and the transportation business.
Okay.
And we are seeing a lot of those companies start to falter now
Really?
because they're just not, transportation costs are up.
Hmm.
The solo mom and pop really can't compete anymore. So when the trucks break, they don't have the cash flow or the money to fix the truck, and it's just dilapidating a lot of transportation businesses right now. Definitely have seen that. And then the housing, somewhat the same thing with the interest rates being what they are. People aren't able to leverage like they did. The transactions have slowed down, and people aren't ever able to move those houses that they purchased, and they're starting to come back to market. So those two businesses, from a cyclical standpoint, I would say, just based on market conditions, start to eat people up.
Yeah.
Yet, and one of the biggest components of that, the two biggest things that you see are usually medical debt and credit card debt.
Hmm.
That is that's what really gets most people is they just over leverage, overextend, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Right. Right. So, what do you think it is that people really misunderstand about being a bankruptcy trustee in your profession?
They think I represent people. I think it's probably the biggest misconception that I represent clients in terms of helping them in and out of bankruptcy. But also the biggest misconception I think is that they don't understand the role I play in terms of being now in the shoes of the debtor,
Hmm.
right? I'm somewhat of I'm a middleman, not even a referee. The judge I would say is the referee, but I'm more of a person that sits in the shoes of the debtor in trying to get information and uncover the story to understand if there's any assets there that we can sell, liquidate, and help pay back the unsecured creditors.
Hmm.
So, bankruptcy, people refer to bankruptcy, but they often leave off one word, which is bankruptcy protection.
Hmm.
And I think just as a misconception overall, people think bankruptcy is a bad, you know, voodoo, taboo, don't do bankruptcy. You can actually do bankruptcy in some strategic ways that really do benefit the client, or excuse me, benefit the debtor in a positive way.
Hmm.
Um, so that they can actually start over and get a fresh start because they just had an unfortunate circumstance in life,
Yeah.
unfortunate business cycle, and those things are real. So I do like to look at it more along the lines of bankruptcy protection, which is why I'm really cognizant of people who try to game the system.
Yeah. Speaking of gaming the system, how often is it that you find like a debtor is hiding assets and trying to keep it out of the courts or trying to mislead you or misrepresent what assets they actually have? Do you see that very often?
It's rare, yet it does happen. And then you get some people who try to act like they're innocent in the whole thing when they're just really not. Um, Someone tried to hide $100,000 one time.
Really?
And yes, and I just said something doesn't feel right. You have to have a good spidey sense. And that's why I said, I don't know about this. And so I had to kind of just give it over to one of my attorneys who really could take the time to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And we uncovered an extra $100,000 that they were trying to say was not theirs because it was the mother's, but really the sister had it and part of it. And it was just the whole like, no, 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 that doesn't work. I've had it to where people have been the co-seller, co-owner on a property that the parent put in their name, and they didn't ever know that they were on that. They never put any money into it, and I'm like, that doesn't matter. You're
Right.
you're on the deed, and the property was sold, and there was a profit made from it. So you had a 50% interest in that, and if it was a property that sold for $100,000, and even though you as the co-person on this didn't get anything from it, you're still liable for half the money. So
Right.
where is it? And that's when you have to go do, essentially you get to do clawbacks, preference claims. You get to go back and say, hey, anyone who was paid at a certain amount or made a certain amount of money at certain dates, we get to go claw that money back into the estate.
Yeah.
And some people maybe are innocent. I don't know them, and I'm not here to opine or adjudicate that portion of it. But there also are some people who, you know, whether I believe it or not, I just feel like, yeah, it just doesn't feel right. The story doesn't add up. And
Right.
we go and get those things back. So you're a detective, you're an attorney, you're a litigator, you're a referee, you're a counselor, you're just
Yeah.
all these different things have to come into trying to find receivables and collectibles.
You wear a lot of hats. That's for sure.
Yes, you do.
So, what is it that inspires you most about the work that you do?
Um, Knowing that I'm doing a fiduciary just cause, that I'm doing a good service for the government the right way, it's honorable, it's a good day's work, and it's kind of my way of giving back in a sense of doing a good deed.
Hmm.
Uh, and, and, uh, and I'll say this, I mean, we talked about my father. I'll say this part. My father played in the National Football League for 12 years,
Hmm.
and he worked in the National Football League for 29 years.
Hmm.
Like I said, a lot of people don't know that, for 24 of those years, in essence, he was a bankruptcy trustee.
Hmm.
And for me, that's what I'm most proud of is to follow in his footsteps
Yeah.
in that direction more than I am following in his footsteps in the sports direction.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that would be really commendable to what you've chosen as a career path. I mean, it's great to be an NFL star and have a professional athletic career, but I think that a lot of people misunderstand how bad those people that are in the limelight really have it because they're always under the microscope. There's always somebody with a camera watching their every move and coming up to them when they're on a date or, out in the public. And I mean, I'm sure they get paid really well, right? But the quality of life, I don't think, is always what people think or imagine it to be, in my opinion.
It is hard to go it is hard to go places and not be known. Wasn't me in essence, but definitely with my father, I saw this. We would go places and we'd go to your local diner just to eat, and someone's like, "Hey, aren't you?" And it's like, "Okay, we were just here to eat." And
Right.
and then you have to really, oh yeah, thank you, all right, and give the autograph, and then that one person leaves, but then someone else is kind of like they notice what's going on, and it can start a snowball effect.
Yeah.
So it is nice to kind of be behind the scenes a bit, not have to be out front, but still be able to have a sense of it's not that power is not something that I'm striving for, but it's just you have a sense of power that you can make things happen and get things done and
Hmm.
not have to wait for people or ask permission. It's like you're empowered to really get something done and have that latitude and freedom is nice.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. That's really awesome. And I think that, at the end of the day, you're going to feel like you've accomplished something. You've resolved the problem that was out there. You helped this debtor work through their bankruptcy. You helped a lot of these creditors, get something where they might have gotten nothing before. Um,
Right.
you know, albeit there's a lot of creditors that end up with very little, right? As they say, pennies on the dollar. Um, but unfortunately,
Yeah,
it's all part of the business world. It's all part of the risk that you take when you extend credit.
absolutely. And that's where, the old saying, well, the truth of the matter is I work for unsecured creditors and
Hmm.
I have to make business judgments sometimes. Again, like I said, going back to, oh, wow, this person is going to get back 15, no, no, sir, this person's going to get back $10,000. Man, they don't deserve their $10,000 back, but it's going to cost me $40,000 to administer $10,000. It's a simple math problem at that point. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And that's tough. I mean, and as we say in this business, it's kind of like uh, the police out there who are on the street. You might have one car pulled over who was going, 10 miles over the speed limit, and while you have that one pulled over, you have 10 more fly by you going 20 miles over the speed limit and flipping you off, right? So you're like, you can't catch everybody all the time.
Yeah,
So you really have to just make sure that you hone in on what's really there and what's really important to make sure that we get the best that we can out of what's there. But
sure.
yeah, sometimes I have had someone, anecdotally pulled over and been like, you know what, I'm letting that go. Like I'm going to go ahead and quickly push that off to someone else and let them know, let me know quickly if there's something to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm letting it go and won't deal with it. It's just like, hey, I'm not going to spend a lot of time over there. I have a bigger fish over here. I really need to go deal with, catch, and make sure that we don't let these things get out of hand.
Yeah. So have you ever thought about doing any of the other chapters like chapter 11, 13, subchapter 5 now? I mean, have you ever worked on any of those other cases or are you strictly chapter 7?
So yes, I have considered working in other sectors. I don't really have an interest in looking into Chapter 13 right now. Chapter 11s are only appointed in Chapter 11, so that would be fun to be appointed into a Chapter 11 because those are just big and a lot of moving parts and all that stuff. And yet now, as you refer to the sub-Chapter 5 world, that is something I think is definitely in my future of a direction I want to go into the sub-Chapter 5 space.
Yeah, I mean that's rather new, right? So
Yes, it is rather new. It's kind of the way to help expedite the 11s a little bit better
for
so that
small businesses.
for the smaller businesses, absolutely. So there are a couple trustees who are doing that. There was a recent posting about that they're hiring some sub chapter fives. Um, I don't have any doubts of my abilities. I just know that I don't think I'm ready to jump into that fray just yet.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a couple years from now, we'll look down that path and say, all right, we got this under wraps. We got this running well. Let's look into the sub chapter five space.
Cool, cool. So what do you think the best compliment you've ever received with regards to your work is?
Really, it's probably from debtors counsel who appreciate how I've either treated their client or the respect I've given them personally. Um, and it's always nice to get a pat on the back from the U.S. Trustee's office that you're doing just fine. They usually find one or two things that you can improve on. But if that's the most that they're going to say that you've done wrong, that's always great. It's probably the biggest one. But knowing, but again, from the debtors' attorneys and uh, that's probably the biggest compliment that you can get. Hey, I like how you run your meetings. Yes, you were fair in that situation. Uh, I'm not someone who's beating people up. I'm not yelling and screaming at people.
Yeah.
Even when sometimes I can tell when the debtors counsel is caught off guard and they're like, did not know that. You can tell they're like, hey, tell me that after
Yeah.
I've asked the question.
Right, right, right. Maybe
So they're like,
their client wasn't being truthful or didn't tell them the whole story. Is that what you mean?
yes, it's something like that because I'm one of my biggest skill sets is I'm very good at the Q&A. That's one
Mm-hmm.
of my strengths, and it's you're going to be hard pressed not to tell me the truth. And I'm going to be like, so you just said you just said 1 + 1 is 2, but now you're telling me that 5 - 2 = 4. I'm not, help me understand how this works here.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have them explaining themselves, it all of a sudden comes out. And I can tell sometimes when debtors counsel is like, Mr. Newhouse, we'll get that to you. We'll get back to you on that. And that's
Right,
when I know I have
right,
them.
right. So, I mean, I believe that, everybody obviously has their successes, right? But I believe more importantly, everybody has their failures. And as individuals and humans, I feel like we learn far more from our failures than we do from our successes. I don't know if you agree with that or not. But I was wondering if there's a time in your career or throughout your career as a trustee that you've ever failed and you really learned a big lesson. Anything that stood out where, hey, maybe I could have done this better and man, I learned from that. Is there anything that stands out?
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, see, the premise of what you're saying, I 100% agree with. I'll just give one slight twist to it. I often tell people, I've never failed at anything. I just haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, there you
So,
go. That's it, man. That's it. Absolutely.
with the premise of your point, I 100% agree with it. I would say that in this business, every day is a learning curve, and you can look back and be like, oh man, I probably should have done that differently. Oh man, I didn't do that correctly. Oh man, now I know for the next time how to do this. And
Hmm.
going back to like I told you, the movie theater case, not that I failed in that, but that was a very, very bumpy road. I'm just telling you. It
Yeah.
was like, whoa, I didn't know you had to do that. Whoa, I wasn't aware of this. oh my gosh, okay, now I understand why we do it this way because you just haven't gone through it yet.
Uh-huh.
So now it's got my eyes open a little bit wider of like, hey, we really need to cross this T and we really need to check this box and dot that I.
Yeah.
And now I understand why that's done. So, like they say with doctors and lawyers, financial world, the bankruptcy trustee uh, business or profession is a practice because you are constantly evolving and practicing and learning and understanding how to do new jobs. When I first started, I was appointed in 2019, fall of 2019. My very first two cases were in Fort Worth, in person, over in the courthouse. And after my first two cases, COVID hit,
Oh, wow.
March of 2020.
Yeah.
So I had learned the entire process, how we had done it in the past, getting ready to jump into it, and it completely got turned on its head.
Yeah.
So we went from not seeing people in person to only talking on the phone. And we talked on the phone for over a year. And then we went from talking on the phone to doing Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
So now we have gone in a year, no, say in 2 years, we went light years ahead of where we were in the past.
Right.
So learning how to do this business and jumping into it at the time, brand new, and not having been a bankruptcy lawyer, uh, anything in the bankruptcy space, I'd only kind of have been mentored through my father. I was blind,
Yeah.
sitting at home and not being able to really talk or touch anyone to help me learn the business.
Right.
So for me, that was probably my biggest, where I had a lot of, if we'll call them failures. That's where I had a lot of things where I had to learn very quickly how to navigate this process
Yeah. No doubt. No
and
doubt.
come up with my own style.
What do you think the best advice you've ever seen or ever been given in regards to your career as a bankruptcy trustee?
Get in and out of the cases as fast as you can. Don't let them linger. Yet also, I've also been told it's nice to let them linger because once you let them linger a little while, things start to pop up. It's what we call the X factor. You get ex business partners that want to tell you information. You get ex wives who want to tell you information. You get ex spouses that want to tell you information.
The X.
So, so sometimes you'll get people just out of, blue, all types of X's that will give you things when you let certain cases stay open. And
Okay.
there is some validity to that because you may not have all the information. You're waiting to get bank records. You're waiting to get other things, and that's when you want to make sure that you're not letting any money walk through your hands.
So I was going to ask you, how would your wife or let's say your daughters, for instance, describe what it is that you do for a living?
They wouldn't. Um, they probably they would describe it like my daughters in essence. My daughters would definitely describe it as I don't know really what my dad does, but he's always on that computer and he talks to people in these 341 meetings. That's about as much as I think they would know. Now,
Really?
my wife, on the other hand, she has actually helped me from time to time and is, look to get into this to kind of see if she likes it. And she sat in on some meetings and started to realize, like, oh my gosh, this is real, to hear some of the same stories and some of the same things come about as to why people file bankruptcy and how it came about, I think has really had her look and understand and see that this is not just a people are broke or don't have enough money. They actually have real stories that are interesting, that are fascinating,
Mm-hmm.
and there's real money that can be made in this business too.
Mm-hmm.
Selling houses, liquidating assets, and all of a sudden, you can make $100,000 a year, or you can make $1 million a year, depending
Mm-hmm.
on what cases are filed and how many businesses go out of business that year.
Wow.
So that's what makes this a unique business because you can't and you do not go and source your clientele or the way that you make the money. It's about really diving into the case and finding out what money can be made from the case.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I'm guessing with the bankruptcy filings being up, the last few years has been pretty good for you guys.
There's a it's funny you say that. No, and somewhat yes. Bankruptcy filings have been up. So let's go back just a moment. About 2 years ago, Chapter 11 filings were up about 140%. Okay.
Hmm.
And we were expecting a flow downhill because most of your 11s will convert to sevens.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, a lot of 11s will convert to sevens. What happened is if they converted, there wasn't a lot to there weren't a lot of assets to sell from it. They were just small entities where there was nothing there.
Hmm.
And that was a little bit of an issue. And so now bankruptcy filings are up again on the 11s, and we're expecting that to come through. But you can also have bankruptcy filings that are up with no assets.
Right.
And that's where the rub is bankruptcy filings are up, yes, absolutely. But it's like they don't have anything, there's nothing there to sell, they don't have any assets, there's nothing to liquidate. Looks like you do that 20, 30, 60, 100 times, like, wow, what's going on in the economy? So because we get to see this, the bankruptcy filings, I see it as we are a leading indicator of what the economy is looking like.
Yeah.
And I'm also in the financial advisor space, financial investment space, and I say that's more of a lagging indicator of what the economy is looking like. So as I can see the bankruptcy filings going up, and if I see the bankruptcy filings going up with assets, that's the big key here.
Hmm.
That my personal opinion and my own internal research has said to me, bankruptcy filings that are up with assets tells you that the economy is actually very good.
Okay.
If
Because they have assets when they're filing.
and they have assets when they file, and they'll ship off an asset and get into another asset because they could push an asset off. So if you see bankruptcy assets up or filings up and assets up, that means the economy is red hot.
Hmm.
If you see bankruptcy filings up with no assets, that means the economy is down.
Wow, that's interesting. I always looked at the bankruptcy numbers, but never really, I guess, inquired about whether with assets or without assets. So, just
I think that's the linchpin. And if you have the assets, because there are people who are looking for things with assets, and I'll just tell you, I mean, the bankruptcy place is a great spot to pick up assets from
hmm.
for a lot of people. Oh, you talked about a misconception of being a trustee. This the kind of the process. I think a lot of people from the real estate investment side confuse foreclosures and bankruptcy.
Yeah.
A lot of people confuse that, and they think when I say bankruptcy, oh yeah, I know about the foreclosure process. And I stop them and say, no, 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 no. Completely different process.
Hmm.
And if you're going to pick up a property, you want to pick it up out of the bankruptcy process before you pick it up out of the foreclosure process, because you will get a court order with free and clear title of all liens and encumbrances, and there's nothing that could potentially come back and bite you.
Where?
Well, foreclosures, you don't really know what you have or don't have because you're getting it back from the lender, but there may be an old mechanics lien sitting out there that you didn't know about.
Right. Right.
We get all of that stuff cleaned up, and because there's the stay aspect in place, sometimes we get to sell and list properties before the bank can foreclose and take them back.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of people who have tried to file bankruptcy before the foreclosure in an exact attempt to stay and stop the foreclosure.
Okay.
And that's where it's like, all right, so if you have any equity in this house, well, I kind of do, and I look into it, and if we have enough equity into it, then we go back and say, hold on, bank, you're gonna stand aside, stand down. We're gonna go sell the property. I'm gonna go sell it, and I'm gonna make sure you get paid in full, and then have some equity over the top to make sure I can get my secured creditors paid, unsecured creditors paid,
Right.
because I don't want them to take the property back and have equity. and get paid themselves.
Right. Right.
It's like, so that's where my job really runs interference with the banks beforehand.
I bet
But
bet a lot of banks get angry about that.
to some extent, I mean, because the bank really just wants its money back. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say
Sure.
angry.
Yeah.
They don't want the asset. They just,
No.
but if I come in, it's probably more of a like, oh shucks, darn, we didn't get that
Yeah.
one.
Exactly.
As opposed to being mad, it's like, oh, we got that one back. Oh, trust, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever,
No, I get
you
it. Yeah.
know.
I agree. I agree.
So yeah, it's that's what I like about that part of it too, is seeing the real estate, because I have a real estate background. I'm in a real estate broker for over 25 years, and I like to see the real estate indications to see where assets may or may not be. I get some people who try to fudge. I wouldn't say fudge. They try to head fake me on, well, the property only says that it's worth this much. Like, where'd you get that number from? Oh, I mean, I got that number from the tax assessor. Oh, okay. Well, and then I go and run comps on it,
Hmm.
and it's like, no, there's $100,000 worth of equity in this house
Right.
that maybe I could get $75,000 out of when it's all said and done. I'm gonna go take that and look to sell it. So, send me the deed, send me the mortgage balance. Probably first send me the mortgage balance, last mortgage statement, so I can actually see what's really going on.
Hmm.
And if I can see what the balance is based on what I think I can get it for in the market, adding my cost, my attorney's cost, and my broker's cost, and there's equity enough left over for the unsecured, I'm taking that all day.
Yeah. No doubt. No, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So, let me ask you if you could have dinner with three people, whether they're alive or dead, who would those three people be and why?
Alive or dead, dinner with three people. Let's go with, I mean, again, I'd love to have, I'm going to say my father because I'm at a different stage of life and I want to ask different questions in life, right? So that's number one.
That's awesome.
And I'd have some trustee questions like, how'd you do this? What'd you do with that? So
Yeah.
that's number one. Um, Maybe second, Barack Obama.
Okay.
Um, just because of, I mean, his pioneer, first African American president of the United States, just how he dealt with the pressures that he had. I think that would just be one that would be very, very cool. Because I'm not really starstruck on anyone. And then thirdly, it'd probably be someone who's dead. And I can't say that it'd be an individual specifically, but it'd probably be just, I like to know why people did the things they did, you know? So if someone did something stupid and it's like, why did you do that? Like, what were you thinking
Yeah.
when you did that? Or if it's and I hate to say it this way, like the Unabomber or, someone like that, maybe someone who's sitting in Florence right now, take one of those people and say, why did you do what you did? Like, what was your thought process?
Hmm.
And I just would be curious. So, and I don't mean for that to sound sadistic or anything, but it's just
Oh, yeah.
knowing someone's mindset when they did what they did, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, I enjoy learning people's thought process as well. So that's an interesting.
Indeed.
So, if there was
But
one thing that you could tell your 20-year-old self about what you do, and or maybe just life in general, or business or anything, what would you what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
so I would tell my 20-year-old self something that I say today to a lot of people is by the time you figure it out, you'll be out of the game or too old to play. And no one ever told me that back then.
Yeah.
So in saying that, if I had it to do it all over again, I would have told myself, tell a younger self, don't listen to other people tell you you cannot do something. Don't listen to other people tell you something is hard.
Yeah.
because I would have gone to law school a lot earlier in life, but people told me that it was hard. And then I went later in life and I was like, it was not hard. I mean, it was something, I'm gonna say it was easy, but it wasn't hard like everyone was making it out to be.
Right.
And so that's the line I would say is don't let anyone tell you that you can't accomplish it, you can't do it. If that's what you want to do, it's what God has called you to do. So you go do you, because
Yeah.
I've been called to do me, for me to go do me.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. Absolutely. That's absolutely great advice, man. Well, that's all the questions I have, man. You've been an amazing guest. Awesome stories, man. Really enjoyed getting to know you and hearing your story, man. Thank you very much for being the best part of the show, which is the guest and telling your story, man. Thank you very
No,
much.
thank you as well. I mean, I don't know, maybe the best part of the stories was the two X's behind you, behind your head,
Oh,
the
that's
two, the
my
two, the two jacks.
the Jacks.
Yeah, that might have been the best. But no, thank you for having me here today. It's been an honor to be here and share my story and, hopefully educate some of the viewers here on the bankruptcy process and just really, uh, lean into that space if you haven't ever before. Anyone that's paying attention today, lean into that space, learn little bit more about it. And I think you'll find it pretty fascinating in terms of what's done, the process, and how to really find some golden nuggets, in the assets and build your portfolio, build your wealth, and be able to grow forward. So I do thank you for having me here, Mr. Nelson.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it, Rod. Thank you.
All right, we'll be in touch, sir.